We first need to create a culture where we're enabling our community and holding our elected officials accountable. You can't discount Sweetwater Union High School District. We have some fantastic teachers there. And our elementary school district also, I mean, they operate at, over 20% reserves. I think it's 23%. And they're so proactive in their decision making and the way they do things, and it's in a very holistic way. So for Sweetwater Union High School District, we need to be holding our elected officials accountable in every single way. We need the community involved, engaged, and that's the only way we can take this forward. I'm completely against unifying the two different school districts. It's bad business. Any other business would first actually open the books and do good due diligence to make sure that it's a successful business first before having to have any kind of dialogue of the sort. Thank you.
On the question of unification, I think ultimately that is a question for the voters in each district and the citizens of our communities to ultimately decide. I think before that is even discussed or evaluated, I think we all need to hope that Sweetwater stabilizes itself. I mean, I think what we've witnessed in that district in the last few years is appalling. As a graduate, as someone who sent my parents were high school sweethearts at Sweetwater High School in 1966. I went to Sweetwater schools. My daughter graduated from Sweetwater schools. It's appalling. And I think that in terms of the city council's role, that we can be partners with both districts to help facilitate discussion and dialogue about solutions. But it has to be about the students. It has to be about the children and the students and what is best for them and their success so that they can go on and compete in this world and have a better life, hopefully, than we did. And that's what it's about. So if what helps our students succeed is unification, great, but it's all about the students.
The number one priority is student achievement. I am for unification. I think if we look at so many different things, continuity, instead of going to another district, you stay in the same district. When you look at the taxes that they collect and spend, instead of having one superintendent, you have two superintendents. You can consolidate your payroll, you can consolidate your human resources. There's so many different savings, millions and millions of dollars if you do unify.
As I said, fourth generation family, deeply committed to our unified high school district. Mother attended Chula High first year open. My two aunts and uncle graduated alumni at Hilltop. I myself was at Castle Park Junior, back then Junior, and Castle Park High. On no unification, I answered this in the kind of questions in the first interview we started with. Dr. Escobedo has done such a wonderful job in Chula Elementary School District. He's against unification. Now, he stated I am against unification, not only in starting also in the voter guide, legal women's voters voter guide. Thank you.
I'm opposed to the unification of the two school districts. When you take a look at it for just a moment, if Chula Vista is 250,000 or 290,000 people, and Sweetwater Union High School District serves 450,000 plus, when you start adding in Millennium Project and others, it's not an easy fit. I think it's a Pandora's box that once you start digging into it, you're going to have a big problem. What happens with the San Ysidro schools? I know we're Chula Vista and we shouldn't care, but we should care. You leave a lot of schools out in the open there that have no safety net. I think the best thing is to hold the leadership, the current leadership, accountable by one way or another. Vote them in, vote them out, make them go. But hold them accountable and fix it at the root and make it stronger. Don't tear it apart. You're not going to fix anything, just to make it worse. Thank you.
Well, let's make no mistake. A community is judged by its schools. That's prospective residents look at a community, it's the first thing they're going to look at is the schools and how they perform. I'm adamantly opposed to unification. It's not going to work. It's not going to solve the problem. I think what needs to be done is the voters need to take action. They need to clean house. They need to start from scratch.
Well, I've never found myself agreeing with somebody sitting next to me so often, but what a strange subject to be talking about after all the indictments, after all the convictions, to talk about merging with an institution with Sweetwater with all its problems. I think there's, the students' interests are paramount. There's no question about it. And there can be benefits in working together and sharing information. But the thought of bigger is better, and that's the only reason that you would unify the two is ridiculous to me. I'm opposed to it. I think that they can work together, but I am absolutely opposed to that.
Just like it happens in the private sector, I would like to have both of them audited and cleaned up. If we can unify them and eliminate all the redundancies, more dollars go to the classroom. It's about continuity for the kids. We always have to think about the kids and their education and not pleasing the labor unions. And I'm sorry, the labor unions have put in the 4 people that we have in city council. And we need diversity in the politics because the ideas from both parties enrich our democracy. And when we have 4 Democrats and not a single Republican or conservative, we have to enrich that democracy by having ideas from both parties. But you know, there needs to go more money to the classroom because the kids, that has to be the priority. And if by unifying them, more money goes to the classrooms, I'm all for it. But let's clean and knock them both.
So let me say that one of the things that I really enjoy about serving on the Chula Vista City Council is that it's nonpartisan. And it's my hope that we can have debates in a nonpartisan way. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. It matters what are you doing for the people who live in this town. That's what's important. With regard to the unification issue, I am not for unification. I'm okay with studying it further to look at the pros and cons, but based on what I know, I'm not opposed to it. What I am for is that the attitude at the city that the city shouldn't get involved in school district issues because that's the problem of the school district. I think that needs to change. It's time for the city to get involved, to take a stance, to put our nose in it and participate because what Mr. Spethman said is right. Cities are evaluated by the quality of their schools. And so the city must get involved and change the perception that people have of our schools. Thank you.
That's 4 votes for Mr. Spethman. Unification, I'm also against it. I think the Chula Vista School District is run well. We don't need to touch that or bother it. They're balanced, their unions are in check, their teachers are happy, and their students are learning. Sweetwater, we've got a lot of work to do. We do need to get the city involved and see what we can do to help them understand what the problems are with it. And I can tell you one thing, I don't think solving a budget problem is buying brand new buildings out on the east side to solve the problem of the budgets of the Sweetwater School District. And another thing is I'm a little tired of hearing about replacing iPads over and over and over. We just don't have the money to do all that. So we got to stop and prioritize what we're spending our money on out there and sit down and get some outside help. Because obviously the board that's there right now can't do it.
Well, I don't think that the elementary school district should be burdened with Sweetwater's problems or their debt, being that they are operating at a surplus and Sweetwater is not. I do think that there is one person or people that are left out of this equation, and that's the citizens. I think parents need to have a say in unifications. I think the staffing should give their at least their opinion on and have a forum for staff and parents to say, hey, this is the reasons why it would or would not work. I personally, as a parent, my child will be going to the elementary school district, and I am opposed to it.
Well, I've handled it before. I had an employee when I was mayor who actually I had a long professional relationship with, and a very positive one, who it turned out was using time and resources to help a candidate that was running for office and lied about it. And that person didn't work for me a day after that I found out. So, it's first never rushing to judgment. It's getting the facts. It's behaving in a responsible manner and finding out the facts of what's occurring, not acting on emotion, and then calmly and professionally taking swift action.
I think you have to enforce transparency and ethics at all levels of government. That is the top priority. As somebody who has worked in the private sector, somebody has worked in the military, and also as an elected official, I've done that. There have been several cases where I've stood up, made the changes, made the tough changes, and even though it may have not been the politically correct thing, or you wind up with political enemies, it was the right thing to do.
Any violation of public trust or confidence in any arena, whether in business, especially in political arena, should be dealt with swiftly with well-informed decision. I've come across other employees to where they want to use my name or my business to help someone out. I have to politely say, "Thank you, no, you're fired." That's basically that's it.
For me personally, I think there's a two-pronged approach to this. First, you got to go talk to the person that's using those resources, and then the other question is, who's talking to the attorney? I would go and ask the attorney, "What the heck are you doing?" Because they sign the same ethics disclaimers that everybody else does, and so he knows what's right and wrong. And if he doesn't, he needs to be taken out to the woodshed himself. But I think that's the first thing, is you're going to have a humane approach, but it has to be quick, swift. But remember, there's families involved too. But what were the reasons? And talk to both parties, not just one. Thank you.
Well, you know, every single elected official, I mean, if the question, I realize it's hypothetical, but if we're talking about a political appointment or an elected official, every single elected official takes an oath of office. They swear to do their best. They swear to be ethical. They swear to do their best for the city and for the people of the community. I take that very, very seriously, and if that was a violation of ethics, then that person needs to be removed. I agree with Mr. Padilla. I would make sure, darn sure, that I had both sides of the story. I would make sure that all the facts were straight, and if it proved that that person was unethical or in violation of their oath, then they need to be removed.
Well, there's no question you can't be judge, jury, and executioner. You have to investigate first. There's no question about it. At that point, the investigation should be handed over to the oversight committee to look at the ethics and the possible violation. There's no question that an objective view has to be taken of that. You can't just look at it subjectively from your point of view. Certainly that's going to be part of the input and part of the investigation. But there's no question that it's only part. You're not the judge, jury, and executioner. So I say that you look into it, you investigate, you hand over your investigation to the committee, to the ethics committee, and then let them take it from there, as they are supposed to do under the ordinance of the city.
I think first and foremost, that 3 of the questions have to do with ethics, and especially lack of ethics. You know, if we see any funny business, if we don't report it, we become an accomplice. So I'm a firm believer that the best education starts at home, and we need to inspire for new leaders to come in and do the right thing. But if we see something funny, we have the obligation, and moral obligation, to report it, because then we become an accomplice. We have to do our homework on the candidates. Look at what happened with Filner, and it cost us millions of dollars to get rid of that person like that. So it's up to you also to do your homework on us, so you vote for the right person.
I agree with most of what's been said here, if not all of it. The thing to do in a situation like that is, first of all, for everybody to stay calm and have a fair investigation. You got to realize that in politics, there are people who make false accusation in order to hurt somebody else. So there's got to be an investigation. It's got to be a fair investigation. But if those things are proven that you outlined, Wendy, then everybody involved has got to go. No question. End of story.
The specific word in the question that kind of rang a bell with me was, she said if it was a friend of yours that was doing this. And I think if you have a friend like that, you're in trouble. But number one, I think you should just stop right there. Take the person that's brought it to you and bring it to the city attorney's office and let it actually be heard and written down and taken care of in a proper manner.
If elected as your councilwoman, my first loyalty is to you, the citizen, not my friends, not my coworkers, to you. So in the instance that I find anything funny or somebody using your resources, not mine, the city's resources are your resources, find a council member or anyone else using your resources inappropriately, the gloves are off. I'm sorry. We could sort it out afterwards. I think there'll be an investigation and they will report it to whatever oversight committee that we can get into. I'm sorry, my loyalty is to my constituents.
Just gotta tell them, nothing personal, but you gotta go. At least report it first, give them the fair process, but they have to go. It's simple as that.
I think there's always room for improvement on transparency and communication. I think the best thing to do is Ms. Aguilar and Mayor or Deputy Mayor Salas did a meeting about the water situation, the water crisis the other night. I think those workshops going out, I had actually from Tiffany to different schools had actually held when I was a council member meetings where people could come in, you could talk to them. It was more than just a minute conversation or a soundbite. You could actually delve into what they are. We learned about the sidewalk issues. I helped develop the Council Park Sidewalk Program. You learned about the smaller issues. There were so many small issues in neighborhoods that we don't talk about, but when you drill down and you meet the citizens, you can find out about them and be able to take care of them.
Thank you. I believe our city communications quite well. In fact, right now, closing is a budget workshop. That's not attended the water resource meeting. We also hold public safety subcommittee meetings. And if we're not the Nixle alert earlier I received, we wouldn't have been informed about the abandoned U-Haul, which could have been like Oklahoma City. So the city does keep the citizens well informed. Just get on the city website, which is citytourism.com. You can find everything out.
The question is whether the city does a fair enough job of getting the word out. Part of the reason I'm up here is there was a city councilman, he's still sitting, Rudy Ramirez. Like him, don't like him, it doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. I like the guy personally. And one thing that inspired me was we were having some issues out in East Lake with a housing development coming in that Mayor Cox finally weighed in on and said, nope, it's going to do this. But Rudy Ramirez was the one and only person that came to those meetings and took fire. Every one of those meetings. And he stood up and he represented the city. And that inspired me. One person can make a difference. And it happens by going out to the communities. Like Mr. McCann pointed out, going out to Tiffany Elementary, showing up and doing those meetings. That makes a big difference. That's the only way you're going to get the information in, and the only way, the best way to get it back out. The big problem I have right now with most of the city meetings is they happen at like 5 o'clock. They need to be later. Thank you.
No, I think the city does a pretty good job, the city staff, of having public meetings, public outreach. I know that when we were talking about ideas, when the Bayfront was just a concept, there were numerous public workshops and opportunities for participation and ideas. And that's probably the biggest thing. But there's been a lot of different opportunities for the public to participate and come out. Can we do more? Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is something that should be considered, this may be unpopular if I say it, but maybe we do need to go back to having city council meetings at 6 o'clock at night so that everybody, the working man, can show up.
Well, I certainly would not be opposed to a 6 p.m. meetings myself. And I think you have to have an open door policy as a council person in the city of Chula Vista. You really need to talk to the people, just like when we're out there walking and talking to many of you that I've met as I'm walking with my wife on the weekends or on weekdays when we have time. It's really important. The city's doing a good job. We can also use technology. Now, Hector's talked about that a lot this evening. There's no question, WordPress is very easy to use. It's very easy to update and keep people informed on what's going on. This is something that we can update on a daily basis. And the city of Chula Vista can become informed that way as well if we can move the meetings. I think there's a number of different ideas that could be put into play here that could help with the communication. But overall, I think Chula Vista has done a good job.
I go back to technology. We can broadcast everything, put it on the internet, so that you have access to it at whatever time you come back from work. It would be amazing if we had that. And also having a 72-hour period, so that if something is discussed in city council and you're at work, you have 72 hours to talk to your councilman or ladies that you have input, because ultimately this is all for you. We should be seen as public servants and not as politicians. So if we can use technology to your advantage, let's use it, because everything is for you, your kids, and to protect your wallet. And that way, if we have 72 hours from every meeting where a decision has to be taken, we want your input. Thank you.
Is the city doing a good job of communicating with its residents? The answer is no, in my opinion. I am appalled that we're having our meetings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They should be at 6 o'clock. When that was introduced to the council member Ramirez and I voted against moving the meetings from 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock. 3 other people on the council, a mix of Republicans and Democrats, voted for moving the meeting to 2 o'clock. But I was opposed to it, and I can't wait until we can move those meetings back to 6 o'clock. It's the right thing to do. We did a survey recently and found that only 7% of the residents in Chula Vista ever go to the city website or anything. Everything's on there, it's all there, it's just that people don't use it. So we need to find a better way to proactively reach out to people and not just expect that they're going to go to the city website to find stuff. We need to do a better job. Thank you.
I think it's our time and we need to start thinking bigger. Chula Vista is the second largest city, and we continue to think small. And thank you for being here tonight. We've got Channel 10 here with us, but look how many times we get opportunities. Channel 7? I'm sorry. Channel 7, Mindy, I'm sorry. I just lost the vote. But here's the deal, we need to get on those news stations, and we need to let people know, let our community residents know through the news what's going on here. Why does San Diego get to have an opportunity every single day and not us? So let's use the media.
I agree that we could use technology to our advantage. I mean, after all, we could even develop an app for our phones that we could check Chula Vista News with an app. But, and we could move meetings to 6 o'clock, and that would probably suit everybody better. But how many of you have been to a city council meeting? Okay, great. Now, how often do we speak not yet, but do council members speak directly to the public in this kind of forum? Never, right? So, in this type of forum, how about town hall meetings where we save our city council meetings for city business and at least set aside, once every couple of months, not during election season, to have a town hall to discuss city problems, city ideas. I mean, I went to the budget meeting last night and there were amazing ideas being spewed out by citizens that live in Chula Vista. So I think a town hall would actually work every, maybe 60 days. We can't probably do with the size of our city every month, but maybe 60 days a town hall meeting on top of our city council meetings.
Actually, I love this question. It's about reaching the full potential for our city. And we need to get into the 21st century already. We have over 250,000 residents, but there are only 2,000 likes on the Facebook page for the city, which means that there's probably about 250,000 people that aren't receiving information. Same with the Twitter, there's a couple thousand people. One of the nonprofit groups that I started or helped to advocate in over a month received about 8,000 likes. That means that many more people are receiving information from the city, and guess what? It's free. We should be doing things that save the taxpayers money, but get the information out to the public, and let's get into the 21st century already.
I think we can do a much better job. One of the things that I advocated for in the past and will advocate for again in the future is taking the show on the road, and that is the official show, the city council meetings. And I've tried on a couple of occasions to see if we can get our council meetings to be held in different areas of our community, and the problem is our city charter. And that's something that we, the people, can fix. And I think that we need to look at being creative and not thinking that everyone has to come to City Hall but that we can bring City Hall to the people in a lot of different forms. And I agree, I think we need to maximize technology. But, you know, at the end of the day, a citizen's willingness to come and be engaged in government is their responsibility and ours. We have to earn it as your elected representatives, and so often we don't. And so often we do things that alienate people and make them feel disempowered and like nothing they say matters. And that isn't true. So we have to work harder to not just keep and earn trust from you, but to use technology and bring the show on the road to you as well.